Welcome to the SDA Housing Podcast, brought to you by NDIS Property Australia. Before starting this episode, we need to provide a general disclaimer. Information contained in this podcast is general in nature only. It does not take into account the objectives, financial situation, or needs of any particular person. You need to consider your financial situation and needs before making any decisions based on the information in this podcast. And you should consider seeking independent and professional advice for your personal circumstances. All right, let's begin.
Hello everybody, my name is Min and I'm your co-host with Debbie from our office here at NDIS Property Australia, and you listen to the SDA Housing Podcast, a show that explains, highlights, guides and brings awareness about all things SDA in this ever-changing NDIS world. Debbie, today's topic, what is it?
Min, hello. We are talking today about future-proofing.
A topic that's been asked about for the last 2-3 years, and I guess it's taken us this long to put it all together. And it's going to be a nice long episode here. I think an hour, Debbie, or more. What is it?
Oh, wow. Well, there's a lot to talk about, that's for sure. This is a subject that often comes up when we are speaking to people looking to build an SDA. How can I make sure that my property's better? How can I make sure that I attract tenants? Well, this is how you do it. And we're going to give you a bunch of ideas of what you can do, steps you can take, things you can add to your home at the design stage or at the fitting out stage that will attract participants into your property.
Now, we're not saying to everyone who's listening, you've got to do all of these things, right? Because every house will be very much designed differently for different participants' needs. And we've just simply put everything on paper, and we want to be able to read through it, explain it, and analyze it, and just give you, our listeners, a bit of ideas. And so sit back, relax, have a pen and pad, and then let's go through it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Debbie, how should we do? Should we go through one by one and explain and talk about it, or should we read through it all quickly and then let's go back to analysing it one by one? What should we do here?
I think we'll just go through them one by one.
Okay.
And analyse as we go.
Okay, cool.
Rather than repeating ourselves a little.
No worries. Will you start, Debbie?
Okay, so the first point we got here is making sure that if you're building it in an area or a land estate, it's an area that's got 70% plus of owner occupiers. So this is about a location, best practice. Yeah,
best practice is don't build your investment in a investment estate where 89% of all the blocks of land are sold to investors, because you then end up having your participants in a lower socioeconomic area, perceived as, because everyone's renting and no one doesn't really care because they're not an owner.
Yeah, with the owner occupiers, you're going to have a lot more ownership of the area, of the streets, of the roads, of the surrounding facilities, I guess.
Yeah, so look for those land estates which are stocklands, land lease, which are public companies, which are a good indication of where you can invest your money or your investment in for SDA. But something I've raised in the past is also having a separation between SIL and SDA providers. This is an intangible, not a tangible, but don't work with a provider that wears two hats.
Yeah, really important. I've actually spoken to a couple of providers on this very subject the last couple of days. And one was a provider I met in Adelaide at the SDA conference, and she has her own participants. They're all robust. She needs SDA properties for them. So she has got her SDA provider license as well as being the SIL provider. She's going to be building her own properties to house her own participants. So in that instance, it's probably not such a big deal that the SIL and the SDA is the same. I was also speaking to a provider this morning who is a relatively newly started provider. They do SIL and community access, things like that. They've applied for their SDA provider license. Now, they don't have any participants, any clients who have got SDA funding, but they want to be an SDA provider and ideally provide SIL supports as well. And I said, okay, you probably need to be looking at doing that differently. And so this is where the SDA and the sill provision should be separated.
Moving back on track, height adjustable systems. Debbie, give me some examples, Debbie.
Obviously, things like kitchen cupboards, the sinks, stove cooktop, bathroom sinks, not just kitchen and bathroom, but bedroom, all the wardrobes in the bedroom, laundry lines, those sorts of things.
Height adjustable lounges, recliners.
Reclining lounges,
They can also be adjustable as well. Tables as well, chairs. So anything that will make participants' life easier if they were in a wheelchair would be applicable. There's some good companies out there like Hatefully and Inclusive Living, which sell these products to the builders. And you
so
can,
I think in the SDA standards for FA and HPS, the only minimum requirements are that the kitchen has to have one bench top that is height adjustable. But, I mean, they should all be, really. And the cupboards, the overhead cupboards should have systems that will lower them so that someone in a wheelchair is able to actually access things in those cupboards, as in the bedrooms too.
The cost for all these little height adjustables is probably going to be about 20 to 30 grand. But the problem is these builders, they actually add another 20 or 30% margin on top of that, which makes it 40 grand or so. So it's a little bit expensive there. You've got to be very mindful of how you spend your money when it comes to future-proofing your asset there. Next one is lighting. Lighting around the house. Now, I reckon lighting could be covered natural lighting as well. You know how there be some houses have that square natural light from the rooftop going down to the mirrors and goes into the house in those dark spots. Have you ever seen that before?
Yeah.
Yeah, so natural light from vertical.
Yeah, skylights and those all the windows that are up at close to ceiling level, just allowing that extra light in.
But also lighting at night sensors. So people come out in the night when it's dark, it actually turns on along the edges. Could be nice to automatically there as well. A topic, next one is fire sprinklers. We keep on talking about it.
We love fire sprinklers.
Yeah.
Everyone should have them.
We're now seeing a lot more builders implement fire sprinklers now. We're seeing one of our builders in Melbourne called Luxon. Another builder of ours in Perth is Dana, and all their builders are all, and all their sub-building teams are doing fire sprinklers. Other providers coming out saying we only look after SDA properties as a manager, SDA provider, if it's fire sprinkler as well. So we're seeing a lot more of that coming out across the marketplace, which is really good to see. Sensory gardens. Now, I reckon if you hire a landscape architect, I don't know what the costs are, I'm assuming 4, 5, 6 grand, and then them implementing 10 or 15 grand worth of cost to implement a nice, lovely garden, Debbie, it'll be really good, wouldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And not just a sensory garden, but even maybe, vegetable beds where people can actually try their hand at growing their own.
Imagine some palm trees in the back, some roses and flowers, a little fish pond, just a sensory garden, a herb garden as well. Just this being put in the backyard from the very start could just lay a wonderful, a wonderful foundation for participants to say, wow, this is my home forever, rather than walking out the back and just seeing some yellow lawn and that's it. Yeah. So
landscaping, I think, is really important.
Yeah. So there's minimum gardening and landscaping, and then there's going over the top here. And then for 10 grand or 15 grand, it's worth it, I think. Yeah.
For sure. Next one. An accessible motor vehicle in the garage. This is something we've talked about quite a while
year ago. Yeah.
Not recently.
If you're an investor or developer who has multiple houses in a row or multiple apartments in one building, having an on-site motor vehicle, accessible motor vehicle, could be worth consideration. It really is. I mean, if I was a tenant, a participant with 2 other people or so in wheelchairs, I would want to actually have a car on site to take me everywhere. It would be wonderful to do because
a vehicle on call rather than waiting for a
maxi taxis are very costly. We're talking $60 to $80 at a time each way for half an hour. And then there's fewer maxi taxis now these days, Debbie. There's not much around out there.
Yeah, so the waiting time could be hours.
I've heard some shocking stories of participants being stuck on the road, not getting home because there's no way to get home. Yeah. So again, it's an 80-90 grand cost, brand new, or a second-hand car is probably 25 to 20 to 40 grand. But again, it's another one of those ideas where you can implement into your investment property or SDA housing and make it more better for the participant in the house.
Next, private courtyards outside each bedroom.
So in the past, we talked about having multiple living areas. The alternative to not being able to have multiple living areas is to actually have private courtyards outside each bedroom. That would require a sliding door, a stepless sliding door, and a private courtyard with a fence between the rooms, separating the 2 participants in their bedrooms, and having some synthetic grass there outside where that is. It's just private space, allows them to have their own privacy and their break-in area, or not break-in area, but their own little private little courtyard for themselves. And it's very rare to see this, Debbie, around other houses around Australia. I might see it once or twice a year, but it's very rare. I reckon if you actually have that design implemented for your design, it would stand out.
I think it'd be a winner.
Yeah, it would be.
For sure, especially in the warmer states and areas where it is more of an outdoor life.
Yes. Now, courtyards and sliding doors aside, emergency exit door for the carer. Now, this really only applies to the robust and maybe the IL.
Maybe IL too.
Because you capture a lot of robust participants who don't qualify for robust but end up going into ILs.
Yeah, so they've still got some form of a psychosocial disability, but not enough to qualify them for robust. But they still might have episodes where a carer would like to have a bit of a safety.
So exit door for the carer. Now, be mindful of where that carer's bedroom is, OOA room is. I've even seen one of our previous podcast interviewees, I think it was Tina from Sydney. She talked about having a safe room, Debbie, an actual room for safety, where a carer can actually lock herself into a safe room and call for help and cannot penetrate from the outside. So that's also another idea there, emergency exit door or emergency safe room for the carer as well, a lockdown room for the carer, yeah. Moving on, with the SDA builds and designs, a lot of it is usually provision for hoist, provision for automation, provision for whatever it is, right? Future-proofing, I reckon if you're going to go do it right, don't do provision, do the whole installation. I've seen some developers out there just install it at their cost. So the way people normally do it is they get the provisions installed for the hoist, for example, but they don't buy the hoist. And then when participants are qualified and about to move into the house, maybe a month or so prior to moving in, the providers will then apply to the NDIA for funding to purchase the hoist and install it in properly. So rather than having provision, having full installation, that's just a quicker way to get it done.
Certainly, if not the hoist, which not every participant is necessarily going to need, automation for automatic doors and windows and blinds. I think those are things that would really be helpful as standard, not as just having the provision there.
Another one is extra storage space. No one really talks about this, Debbie. Extra storage is very important. Most of the time you see these houses, these FA and HBS houses, using the garage as the storage. Okay? Now, granted, there may be a extra large garage for 2 vehicles, but only one vehicle parks there, other half is being used as storage. That's storage inside the garage. What about storage inside the house? If you can find wasted space being used as storage itself, it'd be great to see the designer or their builder looking at wasted space as actual storage cupboards in the house.
Yeah, storage cupboards with electrical points, of course, because some of this equipment will need charging or plugging in.
Yeah, butler's pantry, extra linen cupboards, storage for wheelchairs, just extra storage, this kind of stuff, yeah.
OOA office.
Yes.
Well, we always know that there's an OOA office in virtually every property.
But that is seen as an OOA bedroom. I'm talking about an OOA office on top of the OOA bedroom.
Exactly.
So in this new world or day and age of mental health, mental awareness, again, Tina from our previous podcast a year ago said it's good to actually have an office by itself where the carer is not the OOA, it's the carer, support worker who actually has their own desk and their own filing cabinet and their own space to actually have meetings and with the participants and with families to talk about their work. This is their workplace, Debbie, not a home to sleep in. They don't use OOA to sleep in. It's their workplace. So having an OOA office and an OOA bedroom is ideal, future-proof. It allows the support services to actually run their business properly on site, okay? Because you might have a 4-bedroom, 4-bathroom house, HBS. It's not just one carer there. There's actually one on site, yes. There might be another 1 or 2 more running around the house doing other things with the participants in the house as well.
Yeah, and even if you've got participants that have 2 for 1 care, so they need 2 carers with them, you could have 4 or 5 support workers in the house at any one time. So making sure that's a decent-sized office space.
Especially if they exercise their choice control rights to choose their own SIL provider.
Yeah.
So you may have a on-site care provider, a SIL provider on-site for the OOA, but the other may have one other participants say, no, I'm choosing my own provider. And they're going to be on-site as well. So 2 different providers on-site in the house. This is where the OOA office and the OOA bedroom does become beneficial for the people in the house, Debbie.
Yeah. So you're actually not just speaking to the participants going to be living in the house and attracting the participants, you're also going to be attracting the better SIL providers if you offer better facilities, which is their workplace environment.
Moving on, a second living space. Unless you have a second living space like a media room or a spare empty room, other than the living room in the kitchen, you're not going to get a third participant.
For sure.
Yeah. So second living space, media room, courtyard, large alfresco area. Space is good. No one wants to be crammed up in a little tiny house with no space. So again, second living space is always paramount. I think should be a minimum standard for all houses of SDA. And speaking of which, I see a lot of houses designs with the wraparound pavement around the whole house. So they can, again, have their own courtyard or have their own space around the corner outside without being stuck in the alfresco area, you know. It's just, I've seen a lot and it's good to see that because, again, let's assuming wheelchair participants here, which half of them are, Debbie, wheelchair participants, they can't go on grass.
That's right.
Yeah. For them outside is alfresco. What, that it? You can't go anywhere else? Having that wraparound concrete pavement around the house is also good as well.
Totally. Just gives them more access to their own home.
Accessibility from the front to the side as well, around the back. It's just better for everyone, yeah.
Moving on. Internet hub system to be inside the OOA office or bedroom.
Yeah.
Lee, this is part of HPS inclusions.
So in our world, Debbie, in our normal world, you or me, we have our little Optus, portable device sitting on our living room somewhere, isn't it? In our normal life, ourselves as able human beings, right? But in the world of SDA and NDIS, you want it inside. It's a centralized area for internet inside the OOA office where it can't be accessed by other participants. And if there's a problem, it's going to be dealt with in there.
Yeah.
You don't want someone sabotaging outside the living room or whatever.
Yeah, keep it safe and secure. Solar panels.
So, Debbie, you know why this is important for HPSs?
I guess they could be using more energy. This will keep the costs down.
Battery backup. HPS houses and apartments have battery backup. You need solar power to charge the battery backup. Because if you have a participant who is on ventilation or other
life
medical
support,
right, that is required as a minimum for HPS. Now, Brendan, I went to Brendan's apartment in Logan Lee about 4 weeks ago, Debbie. He was telling me how their apartment where he was living, the battery backup was there for the apartment, not for the lift. So when there was a blackout, he couldn't get out.
Okay.
So again, be very mindful of these
although I guess a battery would have to be pretty damn big to power an elevator.
Yeah. Good point.
But in that case, I would imagine that they should have backup generators.
Yeah.
But look, all something to consider, especially if it's a small apartment complex. But yeah, moving on. This is an interesting one.
I threw this in because I've seen it in another development in Melbourne. Now, is it really future-proofing? First of all, is future-proofing a physical tangible or is it other little things to be? It could be anything.
I think it could be anything.
Well, anyway, I threw this in.
That will attract participants to stay for life.
Well, in that case, don't charge RRC.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second.
What is RRC, firstly?
Reasonable rent contribution, which is about $10,000 a year, which is a quarter, the Commonwealth Rent Assistance, plus a quarter of their pension, their disability pension. What is that to be about $10,500 a year?
10,900, I think, 10,900.
Okay. If you charge that money, that's from their pocket. I've seen a developer called Project Friday, SDA Project Friday, where they don't charge that $10,000 to the participant's pocket. It means they get, again, the Commonwealth Rent Assistance is something else, right? But that quarter of that pension is about $7,500, $8,000 there. That's $7,000 they've got to spend a year now. So don't charge it. Make them want to stay there.
Especially now that the SDA incomes have gone up so much. If you can afford to not charge that little bit extra, then that's going to make a big difference to participants' bottom line.
Yeah. Hydrotherapy pool. We have one of those houses being built in Marsden in Brisbane here, and it's almost finished in the next 2 months. But having a hydro pool in the backyard is standing out. Now, I recommended my client to do it because I said to them, look, you're coming in the back end of all the potentially oversupply of builds of HBS in the Logan area. The only way to stand out is if you put something different into your house. And they said, yep, let's do it. $70,000 cost for a hydrotherapy pool in the backyard as well. Okay. So again, that's another idea to future-proof your house. It's especially in a hot area in Queensland. Having a pool in the backyard is awesome. It's for participants as well.
Absolutely. Who doesn't love a pool?
Yeah, exactly. I've noticed, Debbie, with next topic is powder room.
Mm.
A lot of the 4-bed, 4-bath or the 3-bed, 3-bath houses, they don't have powder rooms. That's in the toilet by itself. It's just they're all in their own rooms.
Yeah, and I think this is a major failing. I mean, at least the carer's bathroom should have entrance from the hallway or from the common areas, but having a separate toilet for guests, for other carers, we just said that there could be several carers in the house at one time. So, have an extra half a bathroom.
Yep.
Over and above the one for each bedroom.
So if you have a 4-bedroom house, 4-bed, 4-bath, add a powder room toilet. If you have a 3-bed, 3-bath, add a 4th toilet in the house.
Yeah.
We've covered all your second living space already with families to come visit. That's fine. But fully or partially furnished house.
That's another really good point.
I reckon, Debbie, the full furnishing of a house is probably 25
to
30 grand.
30, yeah. And by fully furnished, we're talking about all the white goods, kitchen, dining, furniture.
TV, linen, plates, pots, pans.
Not bedroom furniture, because I would imagine that the participants would often be bringing their own.
Again, maybe. It depends on who's coming. So it could be no furniture, partial or fully furnished. It just depends. You don't know who's coming in at all. So again, if you want to go all out and make it a dream home for someone, and they actually have nothing, they have nothing at all, sure, go for it. Go nuts.
Yeah, at least do a partial furnish for your white goods and your common areas.
Yes. Another one, Debbie, is adjustable medical beds. We're looking at doing some work with a large developer in Melbourne, and medical beds, it's just height adjustable. It's good to have. I mean, you may not have to have it on every bedroom there, but at least one or so. And again, look, I'm not an expert. It's between the participant and the care provider and the landlord who may want to make things more easier for the lifestyle needs in there, you know?
Just ideas of what could be included.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, we recently had a respite inquiry about 2 months ago, Debbie.
Right, or no, it was an SDA.
Bariatric inquiry.
Bariatric patient of someone who they said she needed 2 meter
really
doorways, but I think it might have been 1.2.
It's 1.2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the average home is 820 millimeters.
Yeah.
ILs for SDA is probably 920. I think we should see normal standards as 1020 millimeters for wheelchair accessible homes. Debbie, what does bariatric mean? Please explain that.
Bariatric is basically obese.
Someone who's very large,
yep,
barely moves, it's hard to get in and out of. They will need a very large wheelchair, electric wheelchair, obviously. So,
and larger than normal doorways and hallways.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe having one of the rooms as 1.2, 1.3 meters wide as a doorway entrance.
As a standard doorway entrance, yeah.
Again, moving on from that, hallways. Hallway width. Again, Tina from Sydney said to me she wants to see 1.5 metre wide hallways.
Standard, yeah.
And that's
certainly
good.
For wheelchair.
Yeah. Again, that's not standard. Standard's probably 1.2,
I think it's 1.2.
I don't know, something. It's definitely smaller than that.
Mm.
But again, it doesn't cost money to actually have a 1.5 metre. Like having a doorway an extra 10 to 20 centimetres wider, it doesn't cost any money. You know, it's just space.
Yeah. I mean, certainly having hallway width a bit wider is going to take space, But if that's planned for initially, and hey, if the design is such that you haven't really got much hallway space anyway, then it's not going to make that much difference.
Yeah.
But it will make a huge difference to the participants living in the home when they've got that room to move.
Let's be honest, making a doorway from 920 to 1020 to whatever, it doesn't cost any more money to make a wider doorway. So you might as well do it.
Or minimal anyway if you're looking at the size of the actual...
Like the carpenter, the chippy, the builder ain't going to charge you an arm and a leg to make it an extra 10 centimetres wider. They're not. You might as well do it, because as we said, you're going to get sometimes participants who are wheelchair bound and don't have fully accessible HPS funding, but only get IL funding, right? And if that's the case, you want to make sure that the doorway entrance and maybe the bathroom is slightly bigger and larger. Moving on, hoist provision. Debbie, have you noticed in photos and designs, some of the hoist railing going from the bedroom doesn't go into the bathroom? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, that's quite common because there's a door there. So how can you have the hoist in the ceiling connecting it all the way through?
What you do is you have a gap. So there's
no actual doorway.
There's no door.
Oh, yeah, there's no door. Yeah.
There's a doorway but no door. But above that doorway section, there's a open square section where the rail goes all the way in.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's one hoist that goes all the way from the bedroom through to the bathroom.
Yes. So we don't see enough of those. I think we should see more of that. Again, future-proofing. Talk to your assessor and your designer, having it all the way in. Yeah. When I was at Brendan's apartment, I learned that not enough light switches. In his wheelchair, he can't reach over with his on one side. So he says, if there were more light switches in this bedroom, it would be easier for him. So again, as an investor or a landlord, have more light switches, have more power points, have more TV points around the house, have more USB plug-in cables. These things cost $40-$50. But you just
and they can be positioned pretty subtly as well. It's not like you have to have the whole wall covered in points, but just having those in areas where they're more accessible depending on someone's...
But I've seen NDIS houses there, and sometimes I walk in there and it's just two plugs.
Yeah.
Is that all? Like, I think, again, use a bit of common sense here. If you were living in this house, wouldn't you want to have more than two power in the bedroom?
I mean, it's a failing in regular property as well. Yeah, I've got into so many houses that I've rented or whatnot that just don't have enough power points anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that anyone who's moved into a house or bought a house or rented a house, that's such a typical problem. I just don't know why it's not a standard to have more points everywhere.
Some designers and some builders don't think outside the square.
Yeah.
They're just lazy.
Yep.
Sorry to all those lazy builders out there.
More power points and switches, please.
Please. So your USB charging point outlets around the kitchen. The kitchen bench, the kitchen island. That's a great place for people to be. Now, obviously in wheelchairs it's different because it's a height adjustable one there, so a little bit different. But if it was an IL, right, or a robust, then you wouldn't need height adjustable kitchen island. But even still, having that in just away from the kitchen corner, but having it there with enough outlets and power points would be good.
Island benches are amazing, and if it can be put in, I think it's always.
But also
benefit.
an island bench away from the walls to make it an actual island.
Yeah. So, and then there's...
They can walk around it.
Yeah, of course, a proper island bench.
Now, I want to talk about this very, very seriously here. Having a kitchen island as an actual island, not against a wall, means that the carer is not trapped in the corner of the kitchen. So you got to think safety.
Yeah, so no U-shaped or galley-style kitchens. Having that accessibility all around.
So safety is very important, everyone. This is the working place of a provider and a carers, and they need to be safe. Okay, if they feel trapped in the corner of the kitchen, then that's not a good thing. Okay. Another thing is security systems around the house with light sensory and cameras outside. Look, safety is very important, Debbie. I mean, we hear on the news every day about people breaking in, people stealing cars, people assaulting people in the homes and everything. I think it would be nice to actually have a bit of sensory lights and cameras in the backyard and front yard. You know how, if someone were to jump the fence and go in the backyard and looking at in the dark, no one knows what's going on out there. But if you have sensory lights, it turns on really bright at night.
Yeah,
it keeps the burglars away. And I'll just say, look, Security systems around the house would be nice to see. I don't know how that plays in with the whole privacy. Well, privacy is inside, not privacy outside the garden. So I think it should be fine outside. But yeah, think about that as another option for the house as well. What else? Any other thoughts, Debbie, about other things?
Well, you've got a few more notes here about steps that can be taken, I guess, just other considerations. So start outside, consider the approach to your home, including parking if you have mobility impairments or if you are going to be building a wheelchair property. Declutter and move furniture around to give way to wider pathways. So yeah, really important. If you are going to be particularly buying furniture, furnishing the property, make sure it's not going to be cluttering up. When people are in wheelchairs, they need more space, and that just keeps getting forgotten about all the time. Carpets and rugs, not a good idea. Other tripping hazards like cords. What else have we got here?
On the topic of carpet, again, I'm talking seriously here, serious safety topics here. Vinyl flooring, good. Carpet,
bad.
Sometimes no. As a listener, you're wondering, what's wrong with carpet? What's wrong? What's wrong with that? I was talking to a provider once, and they said to me, carpet's not good in a robust house. And I said to them, why? What's wrong with carpet?
In the robust, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And they said to me, well, if they just sit there all night just picking away the carpet, picking, all right? What's on the carpet, Debbie? What's under it?
The
nails.
Yeah.
Right? Well, let's say there's no nails. Let's say we're wrong. There's no nails, right? This is glue. You get the carpet up. You can use it as a weapon to throw on someone and choke someone with the carpet. You can tear apart carpet as a weapon as well. Self-harm, harm on others. So again, depending on what type of house you're creating or building, yeah, is it an IL, is it robust, is it FA or HBS? There is certain elements of the house which should be considered. Now Elizabeth went in to look at a robust house about 2 months ago in Melbourne, and I said to her, just when you're going there, this is your first time into a robust house, think safety. What can you be seen as a safety hazard in the house? All right? And her mind clicked. It's like, oh, I didn't realize that. I said, yes, that's robust. So you always got to think the environment, the nature, and the equipment and the furniture and everything in the house, which makes it a house and a home, about safety. Okay? So again, future-proofing your house, and I know I'm going off track here, so future-proofing. You want to make the homes future-proof so that participants and the investor feel good about this. Now, on the topic of robust and robust housing, and this is about future-proofing here, people don't realize this, but creating bolted-down furniture in a robust house is the way forward. If you can't lift a table and you can't lift a chair, you can't use it as a weapon, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Now, we're talking about robust here, and we're talking about future-proofing. If you want to future-proof your house, which is a robust house, bolted down furniture on the alfresco area, bolted down armchairs and tables, bolted down chair, like it.
Or at the very least, extremely heavy furniture that cannot be lifted. We went and had a look at the property down in Loganholme that was robust villas, and the furniture in there, we were all trying to pick it up, and it was almost impossible to even get it an inch off the ground. And sometimes these participants have got almost superhuman strength to pick things up and throw them for pieces of furniture through windows and doorways. So, that's really important, I think, for robust.
And I bring this up to our listeners because, first of all, there's not enough robust housing being built, right? We know that. So I think a consequence of that is going to be seeing a lot, I don't know, some or a lot of robust participants moving into IL houses. Because if you've got nowhere to go, there's nothing
for want of anything else, potentially.
Yeah. But yeah, moving on. Voice-activated lights, voice-commanded smart appliances and fittings. They are the ways to make the house future-proof as well. What else?
I think let's focus in on the kitchens here, wheelchair-friendly kitchens. There's a lot that is in the design specs as minimum, but, there's so much more that should be done. Obviously, we've already spoken about countertops and sinks and cooktops that can be height adjustable. but all the shelves and drawers can be pull out so that they're easy to reach. Lever handles instead of knobs on cabinets and drawers. Wall-mounted ovens and microwaves at lower height. A side-by-side refrigerator with a pull-out drawer at the freezer drawer at the bottom. We've got here a cooktop with front controls and a downdraft ventilation system. A single-handed faucet with a pull-out sprayer. Task lighting under cabinets to provide better visibility. And, of course, non-slip flooring, which I think is standard anyway.
Another one is elevators, Debbie. Elevator lifts in a house. Now, if you're building on a small block to be a double-story house and the participants want to live in a double-story house with separate living areas, having a elevator lift in a house is quite a unique design.
Yep.
That costs about 80 to 100 grand to install. It'd be wonders for a participant to actually live in a house where they can go up and down, drive their own car because of the lift.
Yeah.
It's very rare to see, but I've heard of some of them.
Yeah. We were talking about plans at the conference last week in Adelaide where there were houses with lifts, elevators inside.
Yep. So, there's some ideas there for now. What else is there? Participants who are wheelchair bound, but they'll spend a lot of time in the kitchen, Debbie. Just, again, I'm sure these following comments I'm going to make now are already part of the designs with builders who are already thinking outside the square. But let me just read through it just to give some ideas here. Designing a wheelchair-friendly kitchen requires careful planning and consideration of the user's needs. Here are some ideas for a wheelchair-friendly kitchen. Okay? And this may be applicable to be done for an IO house as well. Number 1, lower countertops and sinks to allow for easier access. Number 2, install pull-out shelves and drawers to make it easier to reach items. Number 3, use lever handles instead of knobs on cabinets and drawers. 4, install a wall-mounted oven and a microwave at a lower height. 5, use a side-by-side refrigerator with a pull-out freezer drawer at the bottom. 6, install a cooktop with front controls and a downdraft ventilation system. 7, use a single-handle faucet with a pull-out sprayer. 8, install task lighting under cabinets to provide better visibility. There you go. Lighting in cabinets. I didn't think about that. 9, use non-slip flooring to prevent falls. And number 10, add a ramp or lift to provide access to the kitchen.
So I think those were the points that I'd just gone through a moment ago, but I think they're really important to clarify them again. And all of these things, whilst the majority of those are over and above the minimum standards, they should be standard.
Yes.
So I think that kind of covers all of the points that we had noted down here on.
Can I add another one, Debbie?
Okay.
My personal idea. Having a inbuilt barbecue kitchen thing outside in the alfresco area.
Who doesn't like an outdoor barbecue?
Yeah. Like if the alfresco area was big enough and the garden area was big enough, having a barbecue, like these things cost 10 grand, by the way, so $10,000, having an outdoor barbecue area built into the wall, fully high-end stuff, and a big alfresco area for friends and family come visit and have a party in the backyard. That's another awesome idea there.
Definitely.
So I think we've covered everything today.
There's a lot of ideas in there, and as Min said at the beginning of the episode, they're just ideas. You certainly haven't got to do them all. But, I think a lot of these things should be implemented as standard inside specialist disability accommodation homes. Certainly when it comes to space, storage. And okay, just going back onto the storage, we talked about storage space for equipment and wheelchairs. We didn't talk about storage cupboards, extra linen cupboards.
I mentioned it before.
Bathrooms. You see these plans and images of bathrooms, high physical support bathrooms. They're huge, and they've got a toilet in one corner, and they've got a sink in the other corner, and they've got a shower in the other corner. And there's all this empty wall space. Where are the cupboards? Where's the storage space? So more regular storage space as well in the bedrooms, in the bathrooms, in the hallways. Yeah. Another
idea I have, and this is the last idea I'll give on this episode today, is imagine going into a house, again, call it a small block, 3-bed, 3-bath, 1-car design house, and there's one OA bedroom, there's no office, and there's no second living space. Build a study nook in the living room, Debbie. Like, imagine a wall, just cut in 1.5 meter wide, and this is just a nook. They can sit there in their chair or in their wheelchair with their laptop on, just do their own thing without worrying about going to an office. There is no office, right? To do their own little thing there, or even having a study nook in the bedroom.
Study nooks, another great idea.
It shouldn't cost that much, maybe $500 to do it. But if you do these little designs and implement all these furnitures and ideas into this SDA house that you are buying and investing up to $1 million here, it's just an extra. If your budget's 50,
do it right,
yeah,
and you will attract the participants, and you'll attract the participants that want to stay there for life. So imagine it was your house. Imagine you're living in there. What features and facilities would you want? Just because they're a disabled person with a disability doesn't mean that they don't want the same things. So I guess that's what it really comes down to.
My advice to all the listeners here is, for every month that your house is empty, you've just lost $15,000, $14,000, $13,000 a month, right? So we know, let's say this, we know this for a fact, Debbie, the average time it takes to fill up an SDA dwelling is 6 months, right? So you just lost 6 months times $13,000, which is how much? $90,000. Guess how much to implement a lot of this stuff here? 50 to 70 grand. So I'm saying to you, Mr. Investor, who's listening, if a person had walked into a brand new build in a lovely area with amenities, and it's 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom with a courtyard and a study nook and lighting and a sensory garden in the back and a larger fresco area with a barbecue section and extra storage space and plenty of lighting inside with lots of TV points around the house and power points and plugs and fully furnished as well, right? It is a dream come true for a participant. Like, everything I wanted is here in this gorgeous, fully furnished, linen provided, lovely TV, lovely beds, everything all done, and high tech as well. Why would they say no to that? They wouldn't say no to it, because every month that your house is vacant at the very start, it's costing you money. Number one, every month that, and if they were to depart the house, you're losing money every month while it's vacant. The only way to ensure that it's filled up all the time and it's never vacant is delivering the most awesome, best house that they will want to live in.
Yep. Certainly build it way better than everyone else is building in the same suburb. And you will attract the best participants.
You know, I don't mean to be crude here, but if you're pulling in 150 grand rent a year, gross, for 20 years, that's $3 million, right? Without inflation, you add inflation, we're talking about $4 million here, right? This is a $4 million investment for you as an investor, at best. At best. If it's fully occupied, never empty, and you're pulling in 150 grand a year, times 20 years, right? That's $3 million to $4 million of income there. Spend a little bit more now. Spend the extra 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 grand up front now, right? Including the sprinklers too, by the way, plus sprinkler cost, to ensure that your house is future-proofed and will never need to be fixed up ever again because you forgot to add the sprinklers, or you forgot to add the furniture, or you forgot to add the lovely backyard gardening. Okay?
So I guess this comes down to, if you do have a minimal budget and you still want to get into an SDA property investment, you really need to think long and hard about whether it's something that you can feasibly do. Because if you just want to spend $600,000 or $700,000, you might not be able to get much for that. You might not be able to afford any of these future-proofing ideas, and you might be left with a stock standard SDA home that meets minimum standards but is never going to attract participants. And at the end of the day, you're not going to have a viable investment. So it really is important to consider whether you can afford this, and to build it right and to build it future-proofed will cost extra. But as Min said, at the end of the day, with your income that you're going to get, it's well worth it.
Now, I want to go back to one of the future-proof topics that we brushed through very quickly, but I want to go back and talk about it here, and that is the wardrobe in the bedroom. Okay, To us as normal human beings who are able-bodied, let's walk in, coat, hanger, shirt on, and walk out the door, right? But if you're in a wheelchair, fully accessible, you're sitting there in your wheelchair and you're looking up at this cupboard, high up there, and all your clothes are on there, and you can't even reach to get it. It's a shitty kind of lifestyle you're living. You can't even reach to get your own basic clothes on, right? So having that adjustable height system where you press a button, beep, down, you pull your shirt off, put it on, beep, up it goes, mate.
That should be standard.
Yeah, and it's not.
Yeah.
No one does it.
The minimum standards are so poor. You've got to really understand that.
And too often we hear builders saying to investors or agents, what's wrong? It's minimum standards.
Mm.
And the response should be, dude, really? Just because it's minimum doesn't mean it's appropriate.
Mm.
Okay? And if you're talking to a builder who's going to give you that kind of attitude now, before the build even starts, how are they even going to handle your objections and concerns about warranties and defects in a year's time or 5 years' time down the track? So you want to work with people, be it builders, designers, providers, who are collaborating and talking to you and being just sharing the love, you know? It's just important for you all to work together as an investor and a builder and a provider with the participants to make them happy, okay?
Yeah.
Because the funding follows the participant. And if they are unhappy, they're going to walk out the door and you'll never see them again.
Yep.
Okay.
That's what it's all about.
Make them happy.
Well, I think that we've covered it, Min. I think that hopefully has given you some really good ideas as to various features that you can consider, that you should consider as minimum, above the minimum standards, and also lots of other additional add-ons that can really attract good long-term tenants as participants in your SDA home.
And listen, if you have some ideas, things you've seen that make sense, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Email us, tell us about what you've seen that is a good future-proofing idea, because we want to share the ideas in the community. We want to get ideas from other providers, what they've seen works well. We want to implement these ideas and share the knowledge across the SDA indoor space so that we all give back and help these participants have a better life for themselves.
Yeah. So, yeah, if anybody wants to discuss any of these ideas more, we'd be very happy to do so. So do remember you can easily contact us by just calling our office number or sending us an email, info@ndis.property, or call us on 1300 254 397.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please make sure you are subscribed and following us so you can keep in the loop with all of our upcoming episodes. We would really appreciate it if you could leave us a 5-star rating, a written review, and to share this podcast with those that could benefit. Until next time, catch you on the next episode.